Welcome back to the Old West Tales, where every story whispers secrets of love, heartbreak, and redemption. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Drop your location in the comments. I'm curious which part of the world my viewers are from. Sit back and let me take you on a journey that might just melt your heart tonight. The spring sun stretched across the rolling hills of Montana Territory as 28-year-old Charlotte Whitmore guided her horse through the wide pastures of the Whitmore estate. Her late father had left her one of the largest cattle ranches in the region, but wealth had never filled the emptiness inside her. Since his death 6 months earlier, Charlotte had spent every day sorting through business papers, trying to keep greedy investors from taking advantage of her. Everyone in Red Creek believed the Whitmore family had always been respected, honest, and untouched by scandal. Charlotte believed the same until one ordinary afternoon changed everything. She had traveled into town to donate blankets and food to the local orphanage before returning home. As children rushed around the yard laughing, one small boy remained seated beneath an old oak tree, quietly carving a horse from a piece of wood. He couldn't have been older than 8. His dark hair hung over curious blue eyes that seemed far older than his years. Around his neck hung a silver locket that immediately caught Charlotte's attention. Her heart skipped. The engraving on the front displayed the Whitmore family crest, a rearing stallion surrounded by wild roses. Only 3 lockets had ever been made by her grandfather nearly 30 years earlier. Charlotte knelt before the boy. "Where did you get that locket?" The child instinctively grabbed it. "My mama gave it to me before she died." "What was her name?" "Emma." Charlotte searched her memory, but found no Emma among her relatives. The orphanage caretaker approached quietly. She explained the boy's name was Noah Carter. His mother had died of pneumonia 2 years earlier after drifting from town to town. She had never revealed the boy's father and had insisted Noah never lose the silver locket because one day it would lead him to the truth. Charlotte asked permission to examine it. Inside the locket was a faded photograph. One side showed a young woman she had never seen before. The other contained the portrait of her own father, William Whitmore, nearly 25 years younger. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped it. She left the orphanage shaken beyond words. Back at the ranch, Charlotte searched every family photograph and diary, but found no mention of the mysterious woman. The only person who noticed her distress was Luke Dawson, the neighboring rancher. Luke had spent years expanding his modest ranch through honest work instead of inherited wealth. He and Charlotte had argued often over grazing rights and cattle routes, but beneath their disagreements lay mutual respect neither admitted aloud. That evening Luke arrived to discuss a broken fence separating their properties. Instead, he found Charlotte sitting on her porch staring at the locket. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I found something worse." She handed him the locket. Luke studied it carefully before looking back at her. "Your father's picture?" Charlotte nodded. "He never mentioned another family. Neither did anyone else." Luke sat beside her. "Maybe there's an explanation." "I'm afraid there is." The next morning they visited the old jeweler who had crafted the Whitmore lockets decades earlier. The elderly craftsman adjusted his spectacles before smiling sadly. "I remember making these 3 lockets, one for William Whitmore, one for his younger brother Samuel, and one—" He paused. "For who?" Charlotte asked. "For a young woman named Eleanor Brooks." Neither Charlotte nor Luke recognized the name. The jeweler explained Eleanor had once worked as a schoolteacher outside Red Creek nearly 30 years earlier. Rumor spread that she and William had been deeply in love before she suddenly disappeared. "People said she ran away," the jeweler said, "but folks say many things." Luke exchanged a worried glance with Charlotte. They spent the following days digging through courthouse records, church registries, and old newspapers. Finally, they located an abandoned schoolhouse listed under Eleanor Brooks' name. The building stood hidden among cottonwood trees several miles outside town. Inside, dust covered every surface. Broken desks leaned against cracked walls. Charlotte noticed loose floorboards beneath the teacher's desk. Luke pried them open with his knife. Inside rested a weathered wooden box. Charlotte slowly lifted the lid. Letters, dozens of them, each addressed to Eleanor, each signed by William Whitmore. The letters revealed a passionate secret romance. William promised marriage, a family, and a future together once he convinced his powerful father to approve the relationship. Then suddenly the letters stopped. At the bottom of the box lay Eleanor's final journal. The last entry froze Charlotte where she stood. William promised he would return tonight with everything prepared. Instead, another man arrived. Samuel Whitmore warned me that if I ever spoke of my unborn child, neither the baby nor I would survive. William never came. I fear something terrible has happened. Charlotte's breathing became shallow. My Uncle Samuel. Luke took the journal. If this is true, your father may never have abandoned her. Before either could speak again, footsteps echoed outside the abandoned schoolhouse. Someone had followed them. Luke quietly extinguished the lantern. Through a crack in the wall, they watched 3 armed riders surrounding the building. One of them called out, "Hand over the journal, Miss Whitmore." Charlotte's blood ran cold. The voice belonged to Harold Pierce, the longtime attorney who had managed the Whitmore estate since before her father's death. Luke whispered, "He shouldn't even know we're here." A rifle fired through the window, shattering glass inches from Charlotte's head. Luke grabbed her hand. "Run." Luke pulled Charlotte through the back window, just as another rifle blast tore through the old schoolhouse. They sprinted toward the trees while bullets ripped bark from the cottonwoods around them. Luke fired 2 warning shots from his revolver, forcing the gunmen to duck long enough for them to reach their horses. Charlotte clutched Eleanor's journal beneath her coat as they rode hard across the hills, disappearing into the winding canyons before Harold Pierce and his men could catch them. They didn't stop until nightfall at Luke's secluded ranch cabin. The silence inside was broken only by the crackling fireplace as Charlotte continued reading Eleanor's journal from beginning to end. Every page uncovered another piece of a carefully buried truth. William Whitmore had secretly planned to marry Eleanor despite his wealthy family's objections. She had become pregnant with his child, but Samuel Whitmore believed the marriage would disgrace the family name and divide the Whitmore fortune. Eleanor wrote that William had arranged to meet her on the night they intended to leave Red Creek forever. He never arrived. Instead, Samuel appeared with several hired men, claiming William had changed his mind. Eleanor escaped before they could force her onto a stagecoach heading east, but she never saw William again. Luke spread old county maps across the table. If Samuel wanted everyone to believe Eleanor disappeared, what happened to William that same night? Charlotte thought about her father's sudden personality change that older ranch hands had often mentioned. Maybe he never abandoned her. Maybe someone stopped him. The next morning they visited Ben Heiress, an 80-year-old retired ranch foreman who had worked for the Whitmores his entire life. At first the old man refused to speak, terrified even after all these years. But when Charlotte showed him Eleanor's journal, tears filled his eyes. "I've carried this guilt for 28 years, Ben admitted. "Your father rode out that night to meet Eleanor. Samuel followed him with 2 hired guns. I heard the shots near Black Rock Canyon. We found William unconscious at the bottom of a ravine the next morning. Samuel claimed his horse had thrown him during a storm. William survived, but after the head injury, he couldn't remember what had happened. His memory never fully returned." Charlotte felt her world collapse. Her father had not abandoned Eleanor at all. Someone had tried to kill him before he could reach the woman he loved. But why keep the secret? Luke asked. Ben lowered his voice. "Because Eleanor's child would have inherited half the Whitmore fortune. Samuel couldn't allow that." Charlotte suddenly understood. "Noah." Ben nodded. "Noah isn't just carrying your family locket. He's William Whitmore's grandson." Harold Pierce had served Samuel Whitmore for decades before becoming attorney for the estate. He had helped hide the truth for nearly 30 years. If Noah's identity became public, millions of dollars in land, cattle, and mineral rights would legally belong to the boy. That explained why Pierce wanted the journal destroyed. Charlotte and Luke hurried back to the orphanage. It was empty. The caretaker stood crying on the porch. "They took Noah," she sobbed. 3 men said they were relatives. Luke immediately noticed fresh wagon tracks leading toward the abandoned Whitmore silver mine, a place closed since a cave-in years earlier. "They'll hide him there," Luke said. "They're planning to make him disappear." Charlotte and Luke rode to the mountains as a thunderstorm rolled across the sky. They reached the abandoned mine, just before sunset. Inside, they found Noah tied to a wooden support beam while Harold Pierce searched through the boys' locket. Pierce smiled coldly when he saw them. "You should have stayed out of family history." Charlotte stepped forward. "You murdered my father's future." Pierce laughed. "I protected the Whitmore empire. Samuel built it. William would have thrown it away for a poor schoolteacher. You tried to kill my father." "No, Samuel gave that order. I simply made sure the truth stayed buried." Luke quietly moved through the shadows while Pierce continued talking. "The journal changes nothing," Pierce sneered. "Once this mine collapses, no one will ever know." He reached for a bundle of dynamite stacked beside the wall. Before he could light the fuse, Luke tackled one of Pierce's gunmen. A violent shootout echoed through the tunnels. Charlotte rushed toward Noah while bullets shattered wooden beams overhead. One outlaw fell after Luke's precise shot, while another fled deeper into the mine. Pierce grabbed Charlotte and pointed his revolver at her head. "Drop your gun!" he shouted to Luke. Luke slowly lowered his revolver. Pierce backed toward the tunnel entrance with Charlotte as a shield. "You've already lost." At that moment, Noah shouted, "Miss Charlotte!" Pierce glanced back for only a second. It was enough. Charlotte stomped on his boot and drove her elbow into his ribs. His revolver fired harmlessly into the ceiling. Luke drew and fired once. Pierce staggered backward, dropping the gun. Then the weakened tunnel collapsed beneath him. Rocks thundered down, sealing the shaft forever. Luke, Charlotte, and Noah escaped just as the abandoned mine caved in behind them. Weeks later, the county judge officially reopened the Whitmore inheritance case. Eleanor's journal, William's letters, the jeweler's testimony, and Ben Harris's sworn statement proved beyond doubt that Noah was a direct descendant of William Whitmore's first child. The court recognized him as the rightful heir to a significant portion of the Whitmore estate. Rather than treating the inheritance as a fortune to be spent, Charlotte established a trust in Noah's name that would provide for his education and future while protecting the ranch that had been in her family for generations. One quiet evening, Charlotte and Luke stood together on a hill overlooking the ranch as Noah raced across the pasture, laughing while chasing a young colt. The sadness that had haunted the Whitmore family for decades had finally begun to fade. Charlotte slipped the silver locket around Noah's neck herself. "It belongs to you," she said. The boy smiled. "Does that mean I finally have a family?" Charlotte knelt and hugged him tightly. "You always did. They just didn't know how to find you." Months later, under a wide Montana sunset, the entire town gathered to celebrate the reopening of the old schoolhouse, renamed Eleanor Brooks Academy in honor of the brave woman whose truth had survived decades of lies. Noah rang the new school bell with pride while Charlotte and Luke watched from the front porch, their hands quietly finding each other. Luke smiled. "Funny how we started out arguing over fence lines." Charlotte laughed, "and ended up rebuilding a family." As the sun disappeared beyond the mountains, Noah ran toward them, taking one of Charlotte's hands and one of Luke's. Together they walked home across the golden fields, leaving behind the secrets, betrayal, and bloodshed that had haunted the Whitmore name for nearly 30 years. For the first time in generations, the family's greatest inheritance wasn't land or money. It was the truth and the chance to begin again. I love all of you, my wonderful audience of Wild West Tales. Tell me how this story made you feel. Leave a comment below. Type 1 if you love the story. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more epic tales from the wild.